Hello everyone and welcome to my Wealth Odyssey. This is the portfolio update for March 26, and the goal of this channel is to achieve essentially financial freedom, and a large part of that will be through building a long-term investment portfolio. I started saving at the beginning of 2025 and made my first deposit into my stocks and shares ISA in April, just before the actual tax year deadline. So this is actually my 12th monthly video. So exactly 1 year of consistent investing. It's been a bit of a wild ride, I must admit, with lots of ups and certainly a few downs. And March 2026 didn't disappoint. To be honest with you, I yearn for a month or two of just boring sideways action, but it doesn't seem to be the case with my slightly high beta portfolio. But as I always say on this channel, I'm documenting my journey to that 1 million, including all of the lessons along the way. So before we have a look at the comings and goings in the actual portfolio, let's have a quick look at where we were at the end of February. You can see on screen that I had a closing balance of just shy of £19,000, and that I've had 4 consecutive months of red in the portfolio, which is not great, but the overall portfolio profit from a high of almost £9,000 at the end of October is down to £111.16. Not ideal, but I'm learning as I go, and I'm sure there's going to be more ups and downs in the portfolio in the coming years as well. So at the beginning of March, I contributed another £1,500 to the ISA portfolio, and this was actually a really nice milestone for me because I actually maxed out my stocks and shares ISA for tax year 25-26, and that's absolutely huge for me. So I'm really pleased to have done that. I'm not sure I'll be able to do that each year, but it's a really nice start and it's really given me focus. Those early months and years in the portfolio are really hopefully going to give me a firmer foundation where hopefully the actual gains in the portfolio will actually outpace my actual contributions. So one ISA year ticked off in terms of a full allocation, and that was one of the goals I set myself at the beginning of 2026. So it's really nice to get one of my ambitions ticked off. So let's have a look at the portfolio, and as you can see on screen, there hasn't been much movement, and for very good reason. I'll come to that in a second. However, you can see that I haven't added to any of my positions, which concentrate in the quantum sector and robotics and data centers and AI, all areas that I think will see huge growth in the coming years. The only addition was to the ultimate monthly income pie that I'm copying on Trading 212. And these were automatic deductions each week into my account, bringing that total up to £1,800. So that means my actively invested cash is sitting at around about £9,500, and you'll see that I've got a huge cash position, and that actually is my plan and actually will be my plan for the coming months. And I'll come on to that in a little bit. At the bottom of the screen, you can still see that I have my free money in D-Wave, IonQ and Rigetti. So these are quantum stocks that I did well with last year, and I sold out my initial positions, and now I'm going to let the free money run, and wherever they go to in the next 5 years will be really interesting, but a risk-off mentality, and now I can stomach the volatility, certainly with those 3 stocks, a lot more easier. So the big thing that happened at the very end of February and early March, in fact all of March, has been the escalation of the war between the US and Israel and Iran. This channel is not here to comment on that, as it's just purely based on investments and things like that. But understandably, this is a major catalyst for the markets. The markets don't like uncertainty, and we've seen a hugely volatile month in the month of March. For example, oil prices skyrocketed, then they came down, and the different announcements from Donald Trump meant that the markets struggled and priced in those different things that he was saying. So it was a really tough month. As you can see on screen, we've got the Dow Jones Index, and on the left-hand side of that chart, you can see where the Liberation Day, March and April tariffs in 2025 had a huge negative -20% drawdown on the market. However, that was very much a news-based event that then meant that we actually went up about 40% in the coming months, which made my portfolio a lot of green and a lot of money. So that was great. But obviously with the tensions rising, there are other things happening in the macro. But you can see the sell-off over the last few weeks. And the big question is whether we will come all the way down to the bottom of that channel? It's really hard to say. We are in extremely difficult times at the moment. So it could be another drawdown of around about 10%. We've already dropped 10%, so we'll just have to wait and see. So for me, I've seen this as an opportunity to reevaluate my portfolio. I don't think we're going to V-shape recovery necessarily so quickly. The rising oil prices will lead to further inflation, which will be time lagged. So the longer that the Strait of Hormuz is blocked in terms of oil, and 20% of the world's oil travels through that strait, then we will see inflated prices passed on through the actual supply chains through to consumers probably for the rest of this year. So maybe we're not going to get those interest rate cuts that we were kind of expecting from the new Fed chair in May. And if you look at mortgage rates, even here in the UK, they have actually spiked after the start of the war. So really volatile, confusing and difficult times. So I've decided to go a little bit risk off. So you'll see there, as I've mentioned, I've got a big cash position and essentially I'm just going to sit on the sidelines. Yeah, the macro headwinds look quite big to me and I would like to protect myself, but also have that cash position ready to deploy when I think potentially in a few months that we might have found a bottom. If we did get de-escalation, if we got an end to the war, would we see a bounce? Yeah, sure. But then potentially that might then lead to a shorting opportunity and actually the markets come down because we have been in a bear trend for, well, certainly in my portfolio, for about four to 5 months. But let's have some good news as well. So one of my pure plays in the quantum sector is Xanadu, and this is another SPAC merger. And they announced that they're actually going public. So this was another one where I actually voted for the company to go public. So they will be trading on the New York Stock Exchange. So fantastic news for them. It means more access to capital markets. And I really see photonic quantum computing potentially being the actual runner in the actual sector. We don't know which one, or maybe there'll be a basket of quantum plays that do very, very well. However, I want exposure. And photonic quantum computing is certainly there. And not as a spoiler, but certainly in the early part of April, as I record this, we've seen a huge bounce in that stock. But yeah, really pleased for the guys over there. Okay, so let's have a quick look at where we ended the portfolio as of March. My 1 year of investing is now complete. And I actually ended with a final balance of £19,043.04. That meant a 5th consecutive month of losses, this time of around £1,300, which brings my overall profit stroke now loss in the account to minus £1,200. So yep, certainly not what I wanted compared to where I was back in October, so 5 consecutive red months. And I genuinely think we could be seeing more red months upcoming as well. So I'm going a little bit more defensive, as I've mentioned, so we will just have to wait and see how things turn out. All I do know is, in terms of my controllables are that I can actually save as much money as possible. I've maxed out my ISA for 25-26. Now, can I do that for 26-27? That would be absolutely fantastic. So I will continue to save aggressively and add to the portfolio and build my cash position. So in the short term, I'm now looking to build that to around about £20,000, and then I'll enter new positions as I see fit. Okay, so let's have a look at my favourite graph. So this is actually tracking my investment journey. At the bottom there in red was my expected savings rate, and the blue line, if everything was equal, would be the actual appreciation in the portfolio with a steady return. Now, the great thing is we have been saving a lot more than my £500 estimated a month goal. So that is the orange line on the table, and the green line is the actual portfolio value. So you can see there in the early months, we did really well. We were, for the first 6 months, pretty much flying towards £20,000, and since then we've hit the buffers. So my contributions have basically leveled out the losses I've experienced within the portfolio, and unfortunately this is the first month where the green line has gone below the orange line, so that signifies that we are in a loss, and I'm hoping in the coming months we can get above the orange line again and actually accelerate away from that. But it's all part of the journey. But yeah, I'm learning a lot about the markets and my own mentality and psychology. And in fact, it was quite difficult to do this video, knowing that I've been in a downtrend for 5 months. All I can do is keep saving, keep reading investment books, keep studying, stay grounded, and not make any rash decisions, i.e. selling out of my current positions or even throwing in money into a situation where potentially things could go down even further. Now, in terms of my favourite table, so this is the Stocks and Shares ISA balance distribution holders. So this is essentially just an estimate of the number of holders in each balance band. For the last few months, we have been nestled within the £15,000 to £20,000 category, the fourth bottom row there. And with a closing balance of £19,000, well, I'm pleased we've broken out of the 18,000s, but we're in the 19,000s now. I still remain within that band, and yep, I'm absolutely tired of being in this band, and I cannot wait to break out. So I hope the markets have been kinder to your portfolio than it has been to mine, especially over the last few months. But we stick with our plan, and we will make it. It's as simple as that. I'm resolute in that. Yes, I'm feeling a little bit psychologically a bit battered, but fundamentally the companies I've chosen are great companies, and I think they have upside in the future. I am not a financial advisor, and none of this is financial advice. I'm just sharing my journey, and your capital is always at risk. I just like doing these videos for creative and entertainment purposes. So I hope these stock markets have been kinder to you than they have been to me with my high beta plays. And join me next month, where can I break through into that £20,000 to £25,000 category, and we see the yellow box move further up the table and towards my goal of financial freedom. Yeah, of course we can. Cheers, guys.